What I'm here for right now is to take you guys through a threat campaign known as Volt Typhoon. Raise of hands, has anybody heard of Volt Typhoon? Some of you, not all. So let's just break it down real quick. This is a Chinese campaign of silently planting cyber time bombs within our infrastructure. What I mean by that, last year, FBI Director Wray, in a testimony to Congress, conveyed that thousands of United States critical infrastructure have prolonged maintained access by foreign actors that are in there illegally, and they cannot get rid of them. They are still there. They have been there for years. The intent of doing this goes back to classic warfare, to destroy infrastructure and disrupt if this country chooses to act in a way that they do not like. A lot of my work is also working with biotech and agricultural tech. Every single one of you are 9 missed meals away from pure chaos. If you do not believe that, look up history, look at the fall of social constructs during the failed Hurricane Katrina response. These are actors embedded in water supply, your energy supply, your food supply, your oil, and your gas. This is a problem. My goal today is to explain to you a value proposition of why we think this is a good campaign to use for some of our examples. I hope that I've made that case to you on why this is a pretty important case and why it was one of the candidates we chose to base some of our demonstrations on today. Now, in the sake of time, I do want to call out Jane Genn, who put together on the CASP website this very good threat intel report. You can get a lot of detailed steps on some of the indicators that have been seen with Volt Typhoon, the campaigns, and the tactics and techniques. Though, in the sake of time, I am going to kind of stay a little higher level for a moment. This is from CISA's report. Now, one of the things that makes Volt Typhoon terribly difficult is what we like to call living off the land techniques. Living off the land techniques is something that cyber intelligence analysts like to say to sound fancy and smart. It really means they're using legitimate software as part of their attack campaign. They are stealing access by looking at credential dumps that are on the internet. They are conducting open source intelligence, all sorts of ways to learn how to access critical infrastructure. Another fact, we have outsourced most of our critical infrastructure to the lowest bidder for decades. These organizations, they do not have a SOC. They do not have a security team. They have 2 IT guys and a dog on a good day. And they're busy trying to keep this network running. And they've been keeping it running on a shoestring budget for 20 years. So they have tools like TeamViewer. Some of them have Microsoft Remote Desktop open to the internet. Some of them are using static passwords that haven't changed in 10 years. Why? Because everybody will lose their mind when your power is off for 5 days, and the answer is, John couldn't find the password to log in. When they can take advantage of those low-hanging fruits, they do. They also have been known to exploit 0 days in small office, home office infrastructures to gain a foothold. Now, there have been hundreds of cases of certain 0-day exploits associated with Volt Typhoon. I have stated from the director's testimony, there are thousands. Other experts have said that any estimate is an understatement. So while there are, thank you very much. So while there have been many 0 days associated and vulnerability management is key, don't think for a second that every single person in US critical infrastructure bought the same router that's being exploited and that this is all going to be one software patch away. How many people here familiar with the term initial access broker? Good. There is an entire economy in crime based on just selling access to networks. They have dozens of ways to find their way in. They are constantly finding new ways to get in because they're selling that. So what are we going to do about this? Because what else is happening? That's your reconnaissance. And so sometimes it's an exploit for initial access. Sometimes they just buy it. Sometimes they steal your password. Once they get in, often into kind of a perimeter system, maybe a small office or home office network, they are then conducting local exploitation, often using tools like PowerShell and simple Windows commands to find a way to steal a higher level privilege at that level. When they get administrator credentials, they then begin exploiting the tools that we all live with. Active Directory. I'd say most people here are dependent on Active Directory in their corporate network in some way or another. Not everybody, but most. They are then using the system administrator commands to do things like enumerate the network, because a domain controller controls your domain. Therefore, it knows all the machines on your domain. It controls the user accounts. So those that might not be really IT geeky, there's a thing called the ntds.dit database. That is the username and encrypted passwords of everybody in the company. They're making copies of it and stealing it. They're making copies not by hacking, but by using the system administrator commands that you use to create a backup of the database. That's living off the land. They're not uploading brand new malware unless they have no other option. Sometimes they do upload more malware to do things like establish command and control and remote access. Other times, they're using VPN software when they can get away with it and just make a VPN connection back to their house. These are tricky cases. And because after they steal those credentials, they'll do more research and discovery, but now they're posing as another one of your system administrators. Sometimes they'll make a new system administrator account for themselves. Sometimes this isn't a joke, sometimes they actually maintain your network in a state better than they found it because they want to keep their access. And then, particularly when you have operational technology, they make sure they establish some way to maintain a remote foothold on the controllers for your OT. Because another lie that we tell ourselves is that the operational technology is kept separate from the informational technology, except for the human-machine interface that you use to control all of your operational technology, because you don't want your operators climbing down 50 feet into a sewer to actually control the device. They need a terminal where they can access it. And they often remotely log into that terminal from somewhere in the IT network. There are ACLs and firewall rules. What I'm telling you is the Volt Typhoon actors are stealing the identity of the people allowed to jump through all of the security that you've put in place, that we've put in place. That is why we need to look at some different approaches and techniques for how we defend this. And we have to look at open standards and open methods of how we convey that data. I love vendors. No one vendor in this room or anywhere else on the internet is going to have the monopoly over every critical infrastructure company in America. And that is what we have to defend from a US interest. But this threat is viable against any critical infrastructure on planet Earth. And so with that, I want to remove one of those 9 missed meals from chaos from all of us. Thank you for tolerating my time. Just wanted to speed up a little bit. This afternoon, we'll take you through a couple of use cases and some demonstrations that will be based around this scenario. Please check out the OCA website for this event and read Jane's report. She made some really great detail. Read the CISA report. It's got some phenomenal information as well. Thank you guys very much for your time.